everyone. It's Sunday evening, and I just ran across this on my Facebook page from Christine Niles of Church Militant. Last week, she brought to our attention that she thought perhaps there'd be some revelations about Cardinal Wuerl, who's the Archbishop of Washington, D.C. And in fact, apparently, she's been busy at work. Um, Researching this. So, um, before you look at the 5 minute video that she put together, I want to read this to you. Cardinal Wuerl's true record in Pittsburgh. This is part of the Facebook post. Shuffling around homosexual predators, failing to go to enforcement until he was forced. And then she makes a comment here. I misspeak and say parish priest a couple of times when I meant parish secretary regarding the Father Wellinger story. So keep that in mind here. She made a mistake there, and I want to make sure that, you know, that the mistake isn't. That I don't pass her mistake on to you because she's correcting it here. So here's the video.
He's a very smooth operator. He's very good about putting forth a sort of public reputation of being, very dignified and respectful. And in Pittsburgh, he had this. He developed a reputation for being tough on sex abuse, as the leading, bishop who's light years ahead of his time as far as zero tolerance. That's the public impression he gives. But if you actually look back at his record, that's actually not true. This is another lie that he's put forth and that people have just sort of bought. But we went back and did some serious digging into his past. And I want to bring up just a few cases here of people that he actually sort of knew all about, put back in active ministry, never informed law enforcement. So for instance, the first one would be Father George Zeroas. Very strange story. Now this right here, he's sitting with his Cuban boyfriend in Havana with their dogs Taco and Tico. They were in a 3-year relationship. He was found dead, murdered in his apartment in Havana on May 27th of 2001, found by his boyfriend. It turns out later on that the person who murdered him was a Cuban rent boy that he'd brought, basically a prostitute that he brought back to the apartment. And they shot animal tranquilizer into the base of his neck, causing cardiac paralysis. Now, how does this relate to Pittsburgh? He was a priest in Pittsburgh for a number of years. And it turns out that Pittsburgh, under Wuerl, remained extremely tight-lipped about this. They didn't want to talk about it. They just said, well, we put him on administrative leave a few years ago. And we kind of lost track of him. Well, it turns out if you look at his record, it was very spotty. He had 2 leaves of absence. He was shuffled from parish to parish to parish, and then suddenly he disappears and it winds up dead in Havana, where he actually led a very flamboyant gay lifestyle. He facilitated foreign sex trafficking, hooked up American men with young Cuban prostitutes, while the diocese was saying, oh, he's down there doing, work for the poor. He was actually linked to a pederast ring of 3 Pittsburgh priests who ended up being prosecuted. 2 of them went to jail. 1 of them settled out of court because the statute of limitations had run. This all happened under Wuerl. And the thing is, it was early. It was his very first case when he first came there in 1988. But he really mishandled a bunch of things. The prosecutor at the time actually said Wuerl was very uncooperative. That he was complaining about it publicly. We're not getting cooperation from Wuerl about this at all. That's just one case. Another case involved Father John Krozik. Now this gained a lot of media attention because a Pittsburgh football player actually died in Father Krozik's presence. Krozik had mixed some cocktails. He had mixed some cocktails for this kid, and the kid got drunk, and he was kind of like wandering through the church. He went through a crawl space 25 feet in the ceiling. He fell to his death. He dies, 19-year-old Pittsburgh football player. It's all over the news. And it turns out, through investigation, that the diocese had received multiple complaints about Father Krozik over the years, that he was known for partying with minors, that he made homosexual advances against teens, and the parish did nothing. I think they sent him away for treatment once. The diocese? The diocese did nothing, and they just kind of put him back in ministry, and then this 19-year-old dies, and the guy gets arrested. Another one who was a very well-known case, Father John Wellinger. At least two suicides are linked to this priest. This priest was accused of multiple times sex abuse of teens. Now, the diocese, Father Ronald Langwin, total company man, he's been there for a very long time, just continually making up excuses for Wuerl, for the diocese. He said that they received no complaints about Father John Wellinger until 1995. But we have testimony from a parish priest of Father Wellinger. She said, and she's gone on record saying, that's not true, because I contacted Father Langwin in the diocese in the 1980s, because as a parish priest, I came across enormous parish phone bills for phone sex hotline. Someone was calling a phone sex hotline, 1-900 number, racking up hundreds of dollars. I confronted Father Wellinger, and Father Wellinger said, he admitted, there's a teen boy living in the rectory, he's making those phone sex calls. Now, nobody knew there was a teen boy living in the rectory. Father Wellinger was trying to keep it quiet. She goes to the diocese with this information, and Father Langwin says, you're a gossip, and writes her off. Well, in 1995, the parents of an 11-year-old altar boy said he raped our son. That they could not dismiss. But they said, we will take Father Langwin out of active ministry. Not Father Wellinger out of active ministry. The parents believed them. Turns out, they sued them in 2004 after they found out that Father Wellinger was actually not removed from active ministry till 7 years later. Now, the diocese denies it and all that stuff, but the records say you waited 7 years to remove this guy from active ministry after he raped an 11-year-old altar boy. These are just a fraction of the cases. But people need to start questioning this reputation that he was tough on sex abuse world, because he was not.
Yeah, it's very important. You said he developed a reputation. I think a better way to say it would be he manufactured.
Exactly, he manufactured.
And he had a report